Hey, podcast world. This is Ramon Sanchez. I'm a licensed clinical social worker out in California and host of Destigmatize, a roundtable mental health podcast where professionals I know, members of my community, and some of my friends can discuss topics worth destigmatizing. For this episode, I've invited a fellow MSW from California State University, Bakersfield, Shelby Esquedo. Shelby is a program development director with Bakersfield Angels. With 7 years of experience working alongside system-impacted youth, she has a deep first-hand understanding of how the justice and child welfare systems shape lives. She spent the last 5 years at Bakersfield Angels creating programs that focus on supporting and empowering the youth we serve. I'm looking forward to discussing the intersections of foster care, community support, and mental health for our youth. And now, here's our episode. Destigmatize Mental Health Podcast, Season 5, Episode 5. I am here with Shelby Esquedo. Welcome to the podcast, Shelby.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, Shelby, I've known you. It's so interesting how you and I met. You and I mean, we've known each other. We've crossed paths. Our names have crossed paths, but we actually met at a vet hospital.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was so funny. You told me that you were doing your MSW program, and now you are the program development director, correct? Well, congratulations on everything, on your entire journey.
Thank you.
So, graduated from CSUB when?
In May 2024.
Gotcha. And May 2024, when did you get promoted?
About the same time. So we kind of built my role together, knowing, because I've been there before, during, and after,
Right.
what's next? Because myself and my boss were like, okay, well, you're not just going to be a case manager. What's next? And I'm like, well.
Yeah, it really wouldn't make sense.
No, I'm like, and I love our case managers, but it's like, what now? So we kind of sat down and made up the title together.
Right on. Good stuff. I'm sure it's been a great journey. Any cool programs that you've been able to develop during this time frame?
Yes. And I think my boss said it best a couple weeks ago. She's like, I feel like I released a lion. And I'm like, you did. And I love it. It's my passion. So what I really started with was a self-love group for our girls 11 to 13. And it was 8 weeks over the summer. And I mean, self-love is such a hot topic. What does that really mean? Especially for young girls and young girls from traumatic places. But really my favorite thing about it wasn't so much can you walk away and tell me what self-love means? I walked away with friendships I didn't have before and a newfound understanding of what I like and don't like. So that was beautiful. Second to that is our Life Launch program. That probably is my favorite because it's really about what's missing for these youth in foster care that often age out with nobody and things that weren't taught to them because they move so frequently. So how can we fill in those gaps to make sure that they're successful?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with the transitional age youth population. So it's really interesting to go ahead and see how a lot of our traditional therapy, the stuff that we're really taught in our graduate program, that really doesn't apply in the real world. You know, with these youth, they have higher needs. They really are taught certain skills, and that is not in any sort of evidence-based practice that exists. So, I mean, what's your experience with that?
I echo that. I feel like so much of it, we think people start with this baseline and we move from there, but we have to back up so much and it's not their fault. And so it's rechanging the narrative of well, why don't you know? Well, no one taught them. Why should they know? Because no one took the time. And so it's really just everyone's at a different level, as we know. And again, meeting them where they're at, which is the base of what we know, but looks wildly different based on their experience and knowing that a 16-year-old, when you look on paper, never was taught how to read. Who am I to come here with all these worksheets and assume you're going to know how to do it when we need to take a step back and start at the basics and let you feel like you can achieve things before I just start hitting you with all these different modalities and let's learn this.
Bakersfield Angels is kind of about, right? Tell me a little bit more about your organization. Tell me about Bakersfield Angels. I mean, it's a fairly new organization, started in the midst of COVID, from my understanding.
Yes. The first fundraiser was the day the world shut down. So quite a fun time to start a nonprofit.
Absolutely.
But we are a local chapter of a national nonprofit. So we thankfully do have that behind us. It launched in Austin, Texas. But we are the only chapter in California, so really proud of Bakersfield, and actually the largest chapter, which is super exciting.
That's awesome.
There's 18 of us currently, and always looking to grow. But our goal really is to walk alongside children, youth, and families experiencing foster care, because we know it's a lonely journey. And we know, as I referenced, these kids are often tossed around or felt disposable. And on the family side, it's a lonely journey to bring kiddos into your home that have trauma, that create behaviors when you weren't taught how to manage them. So then a lot of people close their homes because it's a bigger gamble than they were ready for. or they come in with great intentions, but they just aren't prepared. And so we're there to walk alongside them in that support so that the homes can stay open, so that kiddos feel ready for adulthood and all those things, and can just create a better Kern County. And so our foster care system looks wildly different.
It's pretty interesting to go ahead and see what you guys have been able to do on such a short amount of time. The reality is that, and I'm super proud of you because, I mean, you and I are both social workers, and I really enjoy interviewing social workers. So I did my program at USC, you did your program at CSUB, and I've been very interested, especially now being a supervisor for some of the CSUB students during their practicum. It's been cool to go ahead and see the differences in what's taught, what's not taught, and just the differences between each program. And I definitely want to hear from you, your journey. What got you to want to be a social worker? What led you into this world of social workers? Because not a lot of people can do what we do, and promote you to focus on that system impact that focuses on youth.
Yes. So I didn't know really about social work, if I'm honest, going way back. Personally, when I was 13, I found out I had a brain tumor. And so I was like, I'm going to do medical field, because I always knew I wanted to help people. And based on what I had been through, it felt like that was the way. Go to college in Santa Barbara, and 2 semesters into chemistry, I'm like, oh no, this is not the way. This is not it.
Right.
I love people, and what can I do with people? So I took a sociology class. Never heard of sociology a day in my life, but loved it and switched my major to that. And then actually thought I was going to do criminology because I worked with youth in the justice system, but realized I don't want to go in the police force. That's not my route. What else can I do to get there? And so decided social work was the best route for me to really get to support them.
Now that you're there and you're now working towards your licensure, your clinical licensure, with so many traditional clinical settings available, what is it about Bakersfield Angels' specific mission about walking alongside foster families that makes it a right place for you? Mm-hmm. And because you've been there for about 5 years, give or take, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So many things. And I think if you would have asked me in the beginning, I don't know what my answer would have been. But now, once you see these things, you can't unsee them. And so it's non-traditional social work for sure. And I think we have the benefit of, so often social workers are trapped within the systems that they work for. Absolutely. And they exist for a reason. But I think because we got in it to help people, we always want to do so much more. And we at Bakersfield Angels aren't bound by a system. Of course, we have regulations. We're still mandated reporters, all the things.
All of that
stuff. But we're not bound within a system like the Department of Human Services, where we get to go the extra mile and have the intentionality I think everyone wanted to have from the beginning, and really just get deep-rooted relationships with people, because burnout in this field is real, as we know, and turnover is real. And so we don't have as much of that, fortunately, and we're getting to build these deep, intimate relationships with our people on all sides. And that's why I stay, because it's working.
I find it so interesting because, I mean, you've never dealt with foster youth in regards towards most people. I feel, based off of my experience, the people that I've met, a lot of people that have a heart for foster youth, whether they're casa workers or whether they are somehow involved in the foster youth system, they really want to go ahead and be around it because of the fact that they were at some point involved in the system themselves. Mm-hmm. That's not the case for you. So what drives you to continue to stay outside of this is working? I
think we could sit here all day and I could tell you stories and you'd know why. But to keep it simple, it's the beautiful thing. Our executive director will say, like, it changes the youth's lives for sure. But it's also changing our lives and the mentors' lives, because, again, you can't unsee what you've seen. And so to watch in real time relationships heal trauma, there's nothing like it. To get to just watch it unfold and see kids from 11 years old who feel broken and unwanted, to then being now 16 years old, still with the same mentor. Some of them have given birth to their first children or have moved multiple times, getting ready to graduate high school, all these things, and just knowing they've had this one consistent person. There's just nothing like it.
Yeah, I definitely see it. I've been able to see such stories, and I've been able to see success stories, and I've also been able to see heartbreak. And what's really interesting about Bakersfield Angels is that
essentially this organization has spread like wildfire, and in such a good way. I hear so many great things about what Bakersfield Angels is doing, working with the transitional age youth population that I work with. And I'm just so proud of you guys. And I'm curious, as I'm interviewing you, what prompted Bakersfield Angels to be a thing and essentially that gold standard for foster care focused agencies throughout the state of California?
Well, first, I just love that you're hearing about us and hearing good things. It's always our goal. So our founder and executive director, Allison McLean, was listening to a podcast and just was hearing all these statistics and thinking, how can these things be true? How can our homeless population and our prison population and our trafficking population all have a STEM point in foster care and no one's talking about it? So she's like, they can't be true. There's no way. So she did everything what someone else would do, went home and Googled it.
Right.
True. And it's true here in Bakersfield and Kern County and beyond. And so she found out about National Angels on that podcast from our CEO, Susan Ramirez, and reached out, what can I do about it? And texted her friend group chat and said, there's this, what are we going to do about it? And they all hopped on board. And so it just started with people with a heart, because similar to me, none of them were in foster care themselves. They may have known people who had adopted kiddos through foster care, who had different things, but they just had a heart for, no, these are our kids. And all of us as taxpayers, these are our kids. We're paying for them in the system. And so they need better. They deserve better from us. And so that's the short of it. From there is she just kind of decided, this is what I have to do. And fortunate enough to have the training from National Angels to not have to build it from the ground up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's so interesting that you say that, because the reality is that they are our kids. And it's such a weird thing to say overall. But we are paying for them. These services, these benefits that these youth are receiving, they are part of our tax-paying dollars. And the research exists, or the data exists, because of the fact that they are dependents of the court. They are dependents of the state. So they have to keep track of this data. And the problem then becomes that the research isn't there, that a lot of people don't take time to go ahead and actually research what is happening. The statistics are there because the data exists, but then it's like, okay, then creating the evidence-based practice to go ahead and do something about it. That's the big change. I'm curious, is that something that Bakersfield Angels would want to eventually invest in? Or I'm just kind of talking out loud, because I find it so interesting, the work that that you guys do, because no one was in the foster care system.
I think it will always be hard to measure. And it's a difficult thing. I do think the statistics that we are seeing, I do believe they will change, those that are already measured. I think our high school graduation rate will change. And that's not putting that on my own shoulders. That's just showing up and putting eyes on these kids. As far as your question of, would we take that on? I think my boss would hate me if I said yes, and it'd probably be my job. But I do think there is a need for it, because there is such a huge gap that people aren't seeing. And that's really the beautiful thing about Bakersfield Angels, is we're exposing people to something they've known, like foster care is a known thing. But I think the misconception is, well, they're in homes and they were taken from one situation and put into a home, so it must be great. And that's not always the case. And so to open that door for people, again, they can't unsee it.
Yeah. I'm interested, with regards, and you don't have to share any names or identifiers, anything like that, but is there a specific moment or story from the years that you've been with system impacted youth that solidified your commitment to this community?
One is really hard. There's so many. I think just to keep it to myself. So I'm also a mentor through our programs to a 17-year-old. And I think with her, just knowing so many situations, if we didn't exist, who would she call? And that's not just even true of my own girl. That's true of all of them in so many situations. And social workers that are assigned to them are doing their absolute best. Most of the time, I believe that. But it's different, because they know they have an agenda. Even if they're the most big-hearted person, they know that the social worker has a different agenda. And so to get to watch them trust us and learn that adults can be safe and that people don't have to be paid in my life in order to be here, there's nothing like it, because they feel safe for probably the first time in their life with somebody who again, isn't paid to be in their life, doesn't have to be there, just chooses to be there because they care. And they know that we're going to follow them because of the burnout and turnover. Social workers are changing all the time. Therapists are changing, and it's not their fault. But for us, if we can keep one adult with you through all these placement changes, through all these school changes, we see the difference in a matter of a year, sometimes 6 months' time. They lighten up, their faces change. If I could show you a picture from, I have a youth on his first meetup, he really struggled with anger. His knuckles are bruised. He really was in a group home. He was dark. He didn't like people. In the first picture, his head's down, hair's in his face. But now, 4 years later, he is hugging people. He's excited. He's happy. I mean, he still struggles because life is hard, and his life has been hard.
Absolutely.
But he is a whole different human. We're watching them change in real time.
Yeah. And it's so cool to go ahead and see that just the consistency of being present and available could do all of that. In social work, we often deal with cases. As you talk about burnout, I mean, a lot of the times that's probably what contributes towards the burnout, because a lot of times they are viewed as cases. But you and members of your agency, you focus on people. How do you personally navigate the tension between bureaucratic requirements of the child welfare system and the human need for genuine connection?
I think I'm fortunate enough to be in a space where I don't have to worry about numbers. To say that first off, I understand if you're in a system where that matters, it's difficult. For me, they're obviously people first. People first language is a whole entire thing. It all matters. But for them, they are so often seen as, well, you're someone I have to check off my box this month because I'm required. And there's so many cases to be checked off that the intentionality isn't getting to happen.
And they tell us that too.
And again, with all the best intentions, I'm not here shaming the social workers. They just have so many kids. And so for us, we keep our case capacities low intentionally so that we can build that relationship. And when they need something, hopefully we can be there to answer the call. And so just always being people-centered with the kids or our volunteers or even our staff. We're all humans. We can't expect people to just leave that all at the door, because these youth, they've been through trauma. So I'm not going to expect you every single day to be happy, clappy, shiny when I come over. I'm going to ride the wave with you. And same goes for our volunteers. When life happens, we get to step in for them.
Exactly. I could definitely state the same. And I think that's what has helped me be able to continue where I'm currently at. Because again, it just depends on the hat that I wear. So for me, I have my day job, and that is with working with foster youth. And then I have my private practice where that also becomes an option to the podcast. And then the nonprofit where we get to go ahead and talk to some of these just foster youth that, again, that want to pursue their higher education. And it's so interesting to go ahead and hear that, for them, that they are seen as that. They are seen as a case, a number, a checkbox. They do let us know about that, but we keep our caseloads low as well by design. Being in the mental health space with a foster youth, most of these foster youth will go through heavier trauma than probably you and I have gone through. They probably have seen a lot more in ways that you and I haven't seen. And that goes for a lot of adults as well. And a lot of people don't see that. So when it comes down to mental health and they don't show up for their sessions, I don't even blame you. I'm not even mad at you. It's all right.
Respect it.
Respect it. And I'm going to give you your space. I'm going to give you your time, but I'm going to keep showing up.
And that's it. When they don't come and you keep showing up, that's all the difference, because they're used to people being angry, or they stop showing up because, well, if you're not committed, why am I? And
that's the saddest part about it. In my opinion, it's a subjective opinion. You see that. And of course, we get different training where we're taught empathy in a different way, in a different lens. And it sucks to be and to work with community partners that by design from a systemic level, they have to see these youth as numbers. And it just blows. And that's why I really wanted to go ahead and do this episode. I've been wanting to do this episode for a while, to be honest with you, because I know the work that you guys are doing and people see the work that you guys are doing. And the reason why you guys are blowing up as quickly as you have 6 years later, 7 years later, is because of the fact that people see what you guys are doing. One thing that often stops people from helping is the stigma that you have to be a perfect person or have a perfect background to support foster care. how do you help people understand that you don't need to be a superhero to lead a love box project or to even become a mentor?
Well, one, our tagline is not everyone's called to foster or adopt, but everyone can do something. And so I think so many people, once they hear about it, they want to help. But what is my lane? I'm not ready to be a foster parent because that's scary, or I don't have the capacity, or I have my kiddos I'm raising myself right now. But what else can I do? And it's really just breaking down the fact that, like you said, you don't have to show up perfect, because no one in their life's been perfect ever. They're not looking for perfection. They're just looking for someone to show up, which isn't always easy either. I'm not going to say it's a walk in the park, because relational trauma really wreaks havoc on building relationships in the future. And so every mentor or a love box group member is matched with a case manager as well. And so we're there to walk this journey with them, because people come in with incredible intentions, often have never had a touch point with foster care, do not know what they're getting into, which I love because we get to change that narrative for them. But it's just continuing to normalize it for them, that reminding them this is what they've been through, not in exact terms of here's their file, see what they've gone through, but just life dealt them a very unfair hand, and you get a role in helping change that. I think that kind of helps people feel ready. Like, oh, all I have to do is show up. But also we're human too. And we get calls sometimes like, well, my kid bailed on me for the third time. So that's where myself or other case managers come in to support them so they can keep going.
Right. To not feel that heavy burnout themselves, or not feel that they're being rejected themselves, because it's not personal.
No, it's not.
It's never anything personal. It's the notion that these kids have, again, I'm going to go ahead and put your life through a ringer so I could see if you're going to be able to show up for me or not.
Well, yes, we see that a lot. And we try to prepare volunteers for that. Like, there might be a big trauma dump the first time you meet them, or I'm going to push you away because you're starting to feel too close to me, because adults who are close to me hurt me. Yes. And so it's, how do I keep coming back in a way that's safe, obviously, but also respectful. And we've had moments where it's like, well, we have to pause a match for the next 2 months because this youth needs time to heal. And we respect that. We don't have to come because there is no boxes to be checked. And so they know, well, if I'm not ready, then Shelby or whoever at me is going to respect that.
Right. Help me understand, and help our listeners understand, what is a love box?
Yeah, we didn't pick the name. I'll start with that. But the idea, it sounds very tangible, but we are relational, all relational support, not tangible. But the premise of a love box is it could be myself and my husband, or my friends and I, or myself, to be matched with the whole entire family. Because often programs only support the kiddos in care, and they need it. But so do any other kiddos in the home. Because if they're a mom and dad, or a mom or a single dad say yes to foster care, and they have biological kiddos in their home, so did they, but they probably weren't asked. And so it's, how do we get to come alongside all of them as a unit so those parents can keep saying yes to foster care? And there isn't issues in the home because little Johnny got to go do this because he's in foster care, but I didn't get anything. And also my life's being impacted. So these volunteers commit to show up at least once a month to build relationship, which looks very different depending on the family, but it's providing a listening ear to a mom who feels alone on this journey, because foster care is hard and scary. And often family members tend to dissipate because they don't understand why you would choose to do this. Or it's, I'm running to Costco. Do you need toilet paper or snacks? Because you have 14 boys in your home who are eating you out of house and home. It's just, what needs do you have, and how can I help fill in a gap so you can keep doing this?
That's awesome. There's such a heavy stigma attached with being a foster kid. How do programs, specifically the Dare to Dream mentorship, help these young people build an identity that isn't really defined by their trauma or their case file?
Just reminding them that they're people. And when you say case file, I do love, we know about this much about these kids. We get a general understanding from social workers, so we just kind of know what they're looking for. But we get to know about them by meeting them. And our program director, when a youth's referred, sits in their living room with them. What do you like? What don't you like? Who are you looking for in a mentor? Do you even want a mentor? Because we're not required. And so we're taking the extra step to get to know them on a personal level, not just a paper level. Because that's so much of their life is, I'm going to hand you a file about this kid. And paper isn't always true. I mean, these things may have happened, but that doesn't represent this as a whole entire person. Right. And so let's get in there and know them and then match them intentionally with someone who has liked interests. So we don't just pair youth A and mentor A because they applied the same day. Youth might wait a while to find their perfect match, and they get to say yes to each other. So we don't just say like, oh, we think this sounds great. We send it to the youth and they say, I don't actually really like Kim. Kim doesn't sound great. Well, then we'll go back to the drawing board. And same on hypothetical Kim said, she would get to say, oh, sure, I would love to be matched with this youth because it feels right. And so we kind of joke it's like blind dating, but we're good matchmakers, I will say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just completely find it interesting how you guys do take that extra step to go ahead and ensure that these youth know that they do have the right to make their own choices. They have the right for self-determination. And I say the same thing when it comes down to a diagnosis. Us being clinical social workers, when we provide a mental health diagnosis, that diagnosis doesn't define who you are. That's just what's happening in this moment. And it's also a way that if something were to happen to me, the next person that does come and take over your case will be able to have a better understanding and be able to go ahead and help you a little bit better. Also, it's also for insurances. It's not really necessarily for us. So, so I find that really, really interesting. There's data that I saw on the National Angels website that 1 out of 5 foster youth will experience homelessness at the moment that they turn 18. Shelby, how does the Dare to Dream program specifically address this aging out crisis in Kern County?
I will say in California, we're super fortunate to have the AB 12 program, so that in other states, at the moment they turn 18, there is no support for them. In the state we're in, that is not true for the youth. They do have to opt in, but they can get financial support and housing if they do so choose, which obviously helps change that statistic here from 18 to 21 at least. But still, even with an apartment, life's hard when you've never cooked for yourself, grocery shopped, done laundry, cleaned an apartment, or been on your own.
Right.
Or they're often placed with roommates that they don't know. So there's 2 of them who have both probably gone through severe trauma and don't know how to live in this type of situation. So where mentors in Dare to Dream really can come in is just to support them in that transition. And one little thing that we do is we give them all little welcome home buckets. And it's just some of the basics because you come with, pretty much nothing. The AB 12 program does give them some things to start, but it feels still very bland. It feels like, well, what do I do now? So it's just little things to kind of make them feel celebrated and make this feel normal. And mentors helping them move. We partner with, I don't know if you've ever heard of Mentors Moving. They're a great organization, and they partnered with us sometimes to help get furniture into these apartments because, well, one, I know the state can't afford to furnish all of these things, so I'm not blaming them.
Right.
But also dignity, you deserve a couch, and you deserve to have a lamp in your apartment. And so partnering with people who donate things to us, or just if there's a mentor who's my youth's moving out and I really want to help them get a couch, we help them as well. So just letting them, making it not feel so scary, and just keep doing it with them. And when they have questions and there's a bang in the night and they feel scared for the first time, having someone to call.
Being able to go ahead and have those donations. Have you guys been able to go ahead and just partner with any just organizations, maybe like Home Goods or, TJ Maxx, anything, any of those stores that exist?
We haven't. And I will say the biggest thing is just because of storage. I don't know what it would look like to keep all of that on hand. Ideally, which maybe Home Goods listen up, ideally we could call and say, hey, we have this 18-year-old female who's going to move out in the next 3 weeks. But I just don't think it's ideal for anybody. I would love that for them, but we don't have the capacity to keep all of it. I wish we did.
Being able to go ahead and work with leadership and being able to go ahead and have those conversations of, well, maybe there could be a voucher where that could be a write-off for you guys. But yeah, it could definitely be extremely scary to go ahead and have to move and be on your own. And Assembly Bill 12, which I forgot when that started, but it's fairly recent. It's fairly new. It is of 18 through 21. For them to be able to go ahead and obtain mental health services or go to school or go to work. And it could be and as well. So that's a really important, it's really cool to be able to have that in California because of the fact that these youth have gone through so much and a lot of them don't even know how to be adults. And that's kind of where our organizations have to kind of step in. Yeah. Is that safe to say?
Yeah. Absolutely.
According to statistics cited by the National Angels Organization, 50% of foster homes close within their very first year. And Love Box program kicks in and they create this wraparound style program. How could we do that? Or what are some of the barriers and what are some of the possible solutions that could exist?
I think more training, but it's also how much can we get in the jump from the beginning? Would people do it? Because I think sometimes you have to get people's foot in the door and ready. But I think continued education will always be a huge thing because you don't know until you know. You do an initial training and they give a lot of great information. And until you have a child in that situation, it doesn't mean anything to you. And so not on our end, but just in general, continuing to prepare them for who may come into their home because every child's super different. Or you may have the honeymoon stage for the first few months, and then 6 months in, it feels like, who is this child? Am I prepared to do it? I think a lot of them, yes, they could be, but they need more resources to be able to stay. But with us, as far as we can go is just continuing to show up for them and acknowledging when it is hard. Because I think so often it's like, oh, it's you can do it, keep going. And it's like, and you can, but also this sucks. Right now, this really sucks. And I'm going to acknowledge that with you and keep showing up. Similar with the youth, just continuing to show up. Even after the last time I was here, the child had a tantrum. I'm not afraid of that. I'm going to keep coming and I'm going to keep showing up and showing the kids themselves that other people can be healthy and it's not just the mom and dad in this home.
Yeah. And I'm sure the parents, appreciate that as well. Again, maybe I'm just biased. When it comes down to this episode, I just invested a lot of time in this, and I'm just super proud of the work that you guys do. Again, according to I'm just proud of all the data that I got for this.
Hit me with it.
So, according to the California School Dashboard, the high school graduation rate for foster youth is approximately 64%, give or take, compared to over 86% for the general population that wouldn't be identified as foster youth. So do your mentors help bridge that gap so youth aren't essentially felt left behind academically? Or how does Bakersfield Angels assist with that, if they even do?
Yeah. I mean, and I will start by saying I love that number used to be 50% and it's now increased. So, and I'm not saying that's because of us, but I just love knowing that youth in foster care are being more successful. But yes, in a multitude of different ways, we know when these kids are moving, they fall behind from an educational standpoint because moving from the east side of town to the south side of town, these youth do have the right to stay at their school of origin. But that's oftentimes difficult because it's an hour van ride. And so sometimes they do have to change schools, which is really hard. If you've ever transferred districts, for myself, I transferred from 6th grade to 7th grade, and it was a culture shock with a healthy family. Moving in the middle of the year, if you think about math and English and science, schools aren't all on the same point. So that in and of itself is difficult. But with us having a consistent mentor who can advocate for them or help fill in a gap, myself, I've taken kids to school when they went to Jameson because there is a lapse between movement and a van being set up because systems take time. But it's important that they get to keep going to school, especially when they want to. Because we have some kids who it's like, well, I'm in AP classes or I'm in sports. And if I don't keep showing up, I'm going to lose that opportunity. And so how can us as case managers or their mentors help step in to fill in that gap? But we also have mentors who hold educational rights because we're often the people who are the most connected to them and most consistent. I hold educational rights. I've held it for my own girl I mentor and a girl in my caseload because who else? Who else knows them intimately? And when they move homes, 3 foster parents ago has educational rights, and now there's no one there to advocate for them. And just setting them up with tutoring, different things, just continuing to see what the needs are and how can we fill them so they can be successful because they're often first-generation high school graduates.
Right.
So and we celebrate them big because it matters. When they get there, it feels like a small feat to maybe you and I. It wasn't a if I graduate, it was when.
Oh, well, I mean, for me, it was an if, but yeah. But no, but I could agree with that.
And so I'll take that back to me personally. I knew I never had a question if I was going to graduate high school.
Yeah.
But for them is, will I make it to tomorrow? Not will I make it 4 years from now? Keeping encouraging them, but also holding them through the hard moments.
Yeah. No, I could definitely understand that. And first and foremost, the fact that it has gone from 50% to 64%, the fact that that number has jumped so drastically, that's so cool, especially coming out of COVID. There are still there's still young adults that come into even my private practice, and they will talk to me about the trauma that has been COVID. And I see their struggles and how they're trying to reintegrate back in life. So it's really cool to be able to go ahead and see that, because I know that did a major damage to not just Kern County, but the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely, it's so true. And it's really cool that you have the educational rights to, mentee. And it's so important because that within itself will allow you to be able to advocate in ways that most people just wouldn't. And that could be make or break for someone that has gone through as much trauma as probably your mentee has.
Yeah. And I will say personally for us, she thought she wanted to transfer schools, and it's not all a walk in the park to be educational rights holder either, because you have to make hard decisions. And obviously we know at 16, you think the world revolves around you because it feels that way. But having to look at the bigger picture, is this the right decision for somebody, is a really big weight on your shoulders to decide. And similar, I'm not a parent myself, but people who raise kids talk about that all the time. Like, you have to make decisions knowing that they might be angry at you, but in the long run, we know it's for the best.
Absolutely. And I do hope that even that decision has, the thought process behind that has shifted. 60% of youth formerly in care fall below the poverty line, even when they earn an income. When you're developing programs, how do you prioritize teaching life skills necessary to break that cycle?
Yes, that is what Life Launch is all about. And the base of it really is giving them confidence and exposing them to things that they've never been exposed to, so it doesn't feel so scary in the real world. But things as simple as, today we did self-care, which doesn't necessarily directly tie to the workforce, but it does, because the conversation around hygiene and how that matters, and choosing to do things that fuel you so that you can show up for a job and show up for an interview, but also doing resume building. And we're going to host a job fair this summer, just giving them more opportunities to be exposed to those things that feel intimidating, but also within a space where they already feel safe because they know our staff and they're with their mentor next to them and they know they can ask questions. And so how can we continue to build them up so when it's a real life situation, they're prepared?
Yeah, it's so interesting to go ahead and hear that, because just basic hygiene, an example is, and again, this is within the past couple years, the notion of having a beard. For me, I have a beard and I have to maintain it. It's pretty well kept. Right now it's not, but I have to go ahead and I have to maintain it. And just the notion, even though there's a culture shift, a lot of employers will be like, okay, you have a beard, I want a clean shave. Like, it just needs to go. So even though there is that culture shift, there are still organizations that have very old school thinking in a lot of ways. And regardless of whether it is culturally appropriate or not, it's their rules. They're the ones that are paying you. It's like, it is what it is. Some organizations may not like tattoos, and that's very common nowadays. And so again, it's, they may say, well, cover it up. And you may want to say, well, why? Like, it's not a big deal. It's not hurting anyone. It's not detrimental to anyone. It's not offensive. It may not be, it's not political. Like, what's the problem? And at the end of the day, it's their rules. But hygiene is an extremely important component, because you're not gonna be walking around smelling like just absolute dookie and expect you to have a job knowing that your customers are there. They're the ones that are going to be smelling you and being around the area. It just creates a very uncomfortable environment. So it all ties in together.
Yeah. And takes an extra level of care, especially for those that have experienced physical trauma. It's often a protection mechanism. And so just being extra careful around that and acknowledging that was used to keep you safe, but how can we help you experience felt safety so that going forward, you can do things that will set you up for success in the workforce.
Right. And simply because it kept you safe at one point doesn't mean that it works now. And that's a process within itself. Lots of therapy and lots of emotional processing, and at times radical acceptance. So there's a lot of work that comes associated with all of that. Again, simply because of the fact that your hygiene may be impacted, again, doesn't mean we could. I'm sure that your organization does the same thing, that's what we do. We're able to go ahead and walk through that and be like, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Here's how it made sense back then. Here's how it doesn't make sense now.
Mhm.
Being able to go ahead and forgive yourself and recognize that it's not necessarily your fault.
Yeah.
And having those types of conversations. Yeah. What are your thoughts there?
I agree with everything you said. And often I don't think they even understand the connection. And so it's helping them from a baseline understand and acknowledge, as you said, that this is real and there is a reason that you did it. And I don't blame you for it. But how can we take power back as you move forward as an adult? Because you aren't this young little girl anymore who needs protection. You're an adult. And so what can we do to give you those small wins? Because I think once they kind of get out of the dark cloud, so to speak, they do feel lighter and they feel more confident to keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Something as basic as hygiene. And, I'm kind of stuck on that conversation right now. I mean, that also has its mental health implications. How great do you feel whenever you take a shower and you get to go ahead and put the product on your hair and allow it to go ahead and sit and just kind of, be in your, and it also highlights mindfulness, being able to go ahead and just feel the shower head hitting your body and all of that. So all of that has its mental health implications and benefits towards it. And it just makes one feel better.
Feel good is real. And that doesn't mean the fanciest clothes. It's just, I've done everything to make myself, to your point, if I need to do my hair, I've done my hair in whatever style I want. And it's giving themselves power again, because growing up, they probably didn't have a lot of options of what deodorant they used, what shampoo, conditioner, and they moved all the time. And this foster parent didn't want to buy the product that worked for my hair type.
Right.
And so now you're grown and let's get what you want and let's make it fun.
Absolutely, because you deserve it. Yeah. No, that's such a great point. And yeah, being able to invest in yourself in those areas and smell good, feel good, look good, all of that.
Yeah.
For sure. There's also something that I was thinking about as well, just given the programs that you guys do. You were mentioning, and we're talking about graduations and going to school and, again, feeling good, looking good, and just being around your peers and whatnot. Whenever they graduate from high school or junior high, whatever it may be, you guys go all out during that time. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Starting with 8th grade, we always do some little special gift and we hand deliver them, because it's another touch point. It's to get to look them in the eyes and tell them that we're proud of you and we see you. Because I just think so often, yes, graduation is a time of celebration, but it can kind of be looked over of like, okay, what now? So taking the intentional time to celebrate with them. But high school specifically, we have a whole other ceremony for them. And it's kind of funny. In the beginning, they look a little bit like, why am I here? But by the end, they're all about it. So we give them all black cap and gowns to all match, because a lot of them choose not to walk at their high school graduation, whether that be because they don't feel attached to that school, or I just want to be done with that, or if they missed their graduation, whatever it might be. But we deck them out in the whole thing, give them all medals. And we do have scholarships they can apply for as well, with wildly different expectations from maybe your traditional scholarship. And my favorite part is we take senior pictures for all of them. And one of her name is Jen Young. Her daughter draws little doodles for them. I don't know if you remember the fad, like it doesn't have a face on it. It's kind of just an outline. So also bringing it back to foster care, their faces can't be shown often. So we can share those pictures because they're just drawings of them. But we collect words from their case managers, their mentors, their social workers, their foster parents, if they had a good connection. Like, what are words you would use to describe this person? And they're drawn around on this frame. And then at the actual graduation, we read them. And then we have them come up, and we've heard so many times, like, no one's ever told me I'm smart or funny or athletic or whatever the word might be. And we try to keep the words unique so it doesn't feel like we're just saying resilient over and over, because they often hate being called resilient.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's just so special to watch them, look them in the eyes when they're sitting in the audience and saying these words, and call them up and give them the biggest hug, give them the medal, give them presents, and just know they feel uplifted. And this is how other people see them. And so that they can speak that into themselves. It's so good.
Yeah, it's definitely rewarding. And I have seen that picture that you're talking about, the drawing, and it's so cool. I've had, actually, I was there whenever, like the week after you guys' ceremony happened. And it was cool to see that individual's reaction. And you guys also raffle off prizes, and my youth ended up winning a really cool prize, and that was pretty cool. According to the National Conference of State Legislators, about 80% of children in foster care have significant mental health issues compared to 18 to 22% of the general population. How can the community rally to help destigmatize mental health care so that youth feel empowered to seek the resources that they really deserve?
Good question. I think not always focusing on the past, because I think so much of their therapy, and for good reason, when they're younger, is about what has happened to them. And I don't think they're always ready for that, especially when they're younger. And so we have a lot of our youth who are 17, 18, 19, who I think would really benefit from therapy, but are scarred from what they experienced.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, again, talk about burnout and community mental health. Their therapists are just changing so frequently. And then I start over again and tell you all the trauma I've been through so that we can create a baseline. But I don't think they have an understanding that therapy isn't always focused on the past.
No, it's not.
It doesn't have to be. And I don't think they know that they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, for sure. I actually start off in my therapy when we talk about limits of confidentiality, all that stuff. I will hit them with, just so you know, I don't have to know much about much. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. You could literally opt out of answering them. It's up to you. But we don't have to go to the past. It's my problem that I don't know about your life. Like that's on me. Like at the end of the day, if you don't want to talk about the past, you can literally take that to your grave. We need to talk. If you want, we're here for whatever you want to go ahead and do. And if you don't want to be here, that's fine too.
Yeah.
You know, you have complete autonomy as to what it is that we talk about. We don't have to talk about anything. We can literally just sit here, whatever it is that you want to go ahead and do. But I definitely highlight and focus on, we don't have to talk about the past. We could literally talk about what's happening now, and that's it. And that allows clients to feel great. What ends up happening most times is that they will bring up the past all on their own.
Yep.
And we just kind of address it depending on the individual. If it's like a little, I addressed it, I'm like, okay, I acknowledge it, move on.
You get little nuggets for sure.
Exactly. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. As we wrap up, is there one key message or piece of advice that you want our listeners to take away today about destigmatizing mental health, especially within the foster care community? What would that be?
These kids are worth it. If it had to be wrapped up in a statement, just these kids are worth it. And it's worth looking them in the eyes and seeing who they are as people and knowing that, yes, they do have a story and that's not their label. Foster care is not a personality trait. It's not what makes you who you are, but that's often how they feel. And so how can I get to just know you for who you are, and breaking down just what we talk about, the barrier of it doesn't have to all be about the past, and how can we focus on what you want to be in the future so I can help you get there, and how I could connect you to whatever resources you might need.
Nice. We could find Bakersfield Angels online, bakersfieldangels.org, on Instagram, Bakersfield_angels.
Yeah.
You're able to find them on LinkedIn as well. You're able to find you guys you guys are everywhere. It's so easy to go ahead and get in contact with you guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, how else can people connect with you?
I mean, you'll probably see us out and about. I always kind of joke when we do any speaking engagements or if we're at any little things, it's like we have a really funny way of continuing to show up. You might see us on your news podcast or your newscast, and then you're going to see us out in the community somewhere, and you're like, oh, someone's telling me I should be a part of Bakersfield Angels. So you'll find us if you really want to.
Anything else that I missed, Shelby? Anything else that you want to add? Something maybe I didn't ask you?
I don't think so. I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
Of course. This was Destigmatized Mental Health Podcast, Season 5, Episode 5, highlighting foster care advocacy and mentorship with Shelby Esquedo. And she is from Bakersfield Angels. You can share this episode and listen to past episodes of Destigmatized Mental Health Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Shelby, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.